Pads are popping in Lexington, Kentucky, and these are three big questions the Kentucky Wildcats need to answer this spring. Hello, everyone. I'm Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And, of course, guys, check out our website over at SECUnfiltered.com. As we talk all things Kentucky football, a pivotal year upcoming for Mark Stoops' program. These are three big questions that I feel Kentucky needs to get answered or, at minimum, get closer to answering this spring. And the first question I have is this, guys. Anytime you got a brand new face at the quarterback position, that is typically where most of the attention at least goes first. And in Kentucky, that is the case. Can Brock Vandagriff live up to expectations unlike Devin Leary a season ago? Devin Leary, guys, you could argue, at the quarterback position for Kentucky, you could argue he was the most disappointing player in the SEC a season ago. This was a guy coming from NC State, guys, at one point in the 2022 season, early in the 2022 season, I might add, there was a Devin Leary for Heisman campaign there in Raleigh, right? So there were high expectations, thoughts that, Devin Leary could get Kentucky back to high-flying offense. And guys, you saw it early on against non-conference competition, against, lesser than opponents, if you will. It was just never in sync. Devin Leary just never lived up to any of the hype or any of the expectations. Now, he did finish the season strong, had that big game against Louisville, and of course, had the big game in the bowl game in the loss to the Clemson Tigers in the Gator Bowl. But still, the entire body of work, Devin Leary, he just was not the guy Kentucky fans thought they were getting. Now steps in Brock Vandagriff, the Georgia transfer. And I know he's only thrown about 40 passes or so in his entire collegiate career. But still, I think you look at a Brock Vandagriff, transfer portal guy, former five-star signee. There's a lot of hype and there's a lot of expectations there, right? You're going to start to figure out here in spring when you watch this spring game. And I know, again, you can't draw conclusions from the spring game, but Kentucky fans want to see something at the quarterback position, and I don't blame them because it's like, what do you got, right? We've seen one guy come in from the portal. We hyped him up for 6 months, and he turned out to be a dud. Is Brock Vandagriff going to be different? Because Kentucky's been floating in that 6 or 7 win range, right? Last couple years after a couple really successful seasons from Mark Stoops. If it's going to be 8+ wins in 2024, Brock Vandagriff has got to live up to expectations, and he's got to be the dude the Cats thought they were getting in the transfer portal from the University of Georgia. Guys, my second big question for Kentucky is this. What does Eric Wolford's return mean for the offensive front? I think also, what does it mean for the dynamic of the coaching staff? Because we thought that Eric Wolford left Lexington in such a state that he would never be back, right? It was kind of one of those things. He went on a recruiting trip and just never returned, kind of disappeared the night. We heard about how broken it was and fragmented it was, and there was some bad blood. And you see Kentucky guys like media personalities on social media ripping Eric Wolford when it happened, and then all of a sudden he's back in Lexington. Of course, you look at Wolford's track record, guys. There are mixed feelings about him from fan bases of places he's been, but certainly he's experienced in the SEC. He was at Kentucky before and did really, really good work with Kentucky. And Kentucky, it feels like, guys, to a degree, has gotten away from what really made them good under Mark Stoops, and that is physicality and whooping your ass at the point of attack, right? That's what Kentucky was known for. They may not have as much talent as you. It may be a bunch of 3 stars, a couple 4 stars sprinkled in, right? Kentucky may not be the most talented team on Saturdays, but they're going to whip you up front. They're going to out-physical you. They're going to run the football. And I just feel like it hasn't been a lot of that lately, right? Kentucky's sort of gotten away from the identity they worked so hard to build under Mark Stoops. Eric Wolford, his return should help boost that, but what does it mean? Do we see marked improvement early on from the offensive front because of Wolford's return? Do we see anything specifically we can look at and say, hey, they're moving in the right direction? Because again, if Kentucky's going to get back, they're going to overachieve. They've got to get back to their identity under Mark Stoops, which is physicality and winning at the point of attack. And the addition of Eric Wolford is only going to help that. Guys, before we get into my third big question, I do want to tell you about our friends over at RHOBACK, because today's segment is brought to you by our friends at RHOBACK. Head over to RHOBACK.com. That's RHOBACK.com, and use the promo code SECU at checkout to get 20% off your entire first purchase. Guys, I wear RHOBACK all the time. The only reason I don't wear it every day here on the show, because at some point it's got to get washed, right? But I wear it around the house, running errands, recording content, playing golf, at the tailgate, at the ball game. Guys, they've got polos, they got quarter zips, they got hoodies. And guys, I've never felt something touch my skin so soft in my life. Like, really, truly, RHOBACK is the most comfortable piece of clothing I've probably ever worn. And guys, if you haven't heard about them at this point, I don't know where you are or what you've been doing. Jalen Milroe's rocking with them, and Orgeron's rocking with them. PGA Tour guys are rocking with them. You name it. Hey, SEC Unfiltered's rocking with them as well. So again, our friends at RHOBACK, RHOBACK.com, RHOBACK.com. Promo code SECU at checkout, 20% off your entire first purchase. Guys, my third and final big question for the Kentucky Wildcats that they need to answer this spring, as we go to the other side of the football: what does Jamar Dumas Johnson's role look like on the Wildcats defense? Another Georgia transfer here, and I thought this was a big one, and I thought this one was a really underrated addition. I think one of the reasons, guys, is, the defensive guys just don't quite get the hype that the offensive guys get, especially at the linebacker position. But let's not forget how good Dumas Johnson was for the University of Georgia. Some people will scoff and say, well, he lost his job. He lost his job at Georgia, right? He didn't lose his job to a scrub. He didn't get demoted because somebody behind him wasn't nearly as good, but they're playing favorites, or this happened or that. He got beat out by probably one of the best linebackers in college football, right? Like, you look at that group of linebackers they have in Athens. So I think Jamar Dumas Johnson has the makings of a star. I think he's going to be an impact guy early. And again, guys, you look at the Wildcats defense, it was not good enough last year. Really, truly, it was not. Kentucky's got to get back again, like I mentioned, on the offensive side of the football, but on the defensive side as well. The hard nose, physicality, the identity they created under Mark Stoops. I think a guy like Jamar Dumas Johnson is going to help them do that. Does he emerge as the leader of the Wildcats defense throughout spring ball? Do we see him take on a bigger role as a brand new player? Because while he is a new player to Kentucky, this is far from Jamar Dumas Johnson's first rodeo being an SEC football player, being an SEC star in a defense, if you will. So Jamar Dumas Johnson, what does that role look like, and how quickly does he thrive and flourish in that Kentucky defense? So again, guys, my three big questions that the Kentucky Wildcats need to answer this spring. Number one, can Brock Vandagriff live up to expectations unlike Devin Leary? Number two, what does Eric Wolford's return mean for the offensive front? And number three, what does Jamar Dumas Johnson's role look like on the Wildcats defense? Guys, it's going to do it all for me. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live and when we drop new video content, which is each and every single day. Also, guys, check out the podcast, which drops daily on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also check us out on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and of course, guys, check us out over on SECUnfiltered.com for all the latest from us. Until next time, guys, I'm Chris Phillips of SEC Unfiltered. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in, and we'll catch you on the other side.